my friends stand by me, only if I'm right. I come out of triple darkness just to see the light. If I say it once, I guarantee I say it twice. If they love me, I ain't going out without a fight. In my dreams, I'm a killer, but for God, man. Try to play it cool, but it's getting hard, man. Rolling with the real and death to all the frauds, man. Not too many on me, yeah, it's kinda hard, man. In my room, sitting in my room. Know they waiting on me and I'm coming soon. Never been a sellout, never been a coon. Y'all be on the camera acting like I'ma show 'em how true and independent get it. Whole game changed by the time I'm finished with it. We about to get this business handled in a minute.
Welcome to the B2M podcast. We are broadcasting from the Code Building in downtown Charlottesville, Virginia. The B2M podcast crew is a group of 5 black men who have been friends for 40 years. We have been married for a combined 100 years. We have 13 children, and 12 of them are sons. So we're here talking about fatherhood, brotherhood, economics, spirituality, and all things of black and brown culture. So join us. You can visit us at B2M Crew on Twitter, on Instagram, and I'm introducing my man John over here. John, what we talking about today, brother?
Hey, today, man, we talking about fear versus respect.
Ooh.
Right? In parenting. We had a conversation
Okay.
not too long ago where we were talking about as a teenager, when I got a certain age, how I always loved and felt like I respected my mother.
Right.
It was a time where I wasn't afraid of her, you know.
Right.
And that time happened to coincide where I got a job. I bought my own car. I paid my own insurance. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, again, thank God for whatever foolishness I was doing, I made it through it. You know what I mean? But at what point, fear versus respect. I wasn't afraid of her. You know what I mean? When she told me to do something. And I wouldn't get in her face and, be rude or it's disrespectful if I don't listen to what she say or do what she say, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't ever going to get in her face like that. I would walk away, run away, drive away, right?
Right.
That's when a man, in my opinion, is so important. It's in a young man's life. In a woman's life as well, you know. But that's what a man need to pull me and is like, yo, I don't care if you bought this car, I don't care if you changed the oil, whatever, you still live under this roof. You feel me? And this is what needs to be done. So I wasn't afraid of her anymore. So do you think, James, fear is important as raising children? Fear versus respect? Is one better than the other? You need a little bit of both? Or is it how does that look to you?
Definitely both. I believe both are important. The example that I think about mostly with regards to, say, for instance, having to, like, if you have to beat your child, not beat your child, but spank them, so to speak.
Why you say spank instead of beat, brother?
That's
That's what we call it in our community.
Yeah, hey,
You
look,
got to beat him.
Because it ain't no even fight, right?
I mean, it just
got
sounds
beat.
so, you know what I mean?
It-
brutal. Bad,
Maybe
like,
maybe
oh,
that's
beat
the
down.
point. That might be the point of the conversation. It sounds brutal.
Yeah,
brutal.
bad brutal.
Yeah.
However, yes, well, like you said, beating. But I think the minister kind of pointed out with regards to the stages, different stages that we are in. And there's an animalistic stage, kind of like when we're crawling. You know what I'm saying? As before we're walking as children and whatnot. And so the need to kind of like tap or or spank. Just like if you look at it with comparison to taming the animals. You know what I mean? It's the whip or whatever. You know what I mean? And that takes for them to understand. So I thought early on, and I use my youngest as this example, is I only had to spank him maybe 2 or 3 times at the most in his life. And from that, because at the time that I did it, was something that was either jeopardizing his safety or what have you, and for him to really know that, look, this is not something that you're going to do and that you need to do. And so just those 2 or 3 times throughout the rest of his, of my rearing him or our rearing him, didn't he have to really touch him again after that. It was just a stern look or change in the tone of my voice or something like that that was sufficient. And then, of course, I tried to then, at the time that he could, I think as we mentioned in the previous episode, was when they get to an age that they can reason. You know what I mean? And you just talk to them and just keep it real and reason with them. And so the fear early on, so that, again, they know that you mean business. And then I think, like I said, they kind of tie in with one another where they respect, there's a certain level of respect that is gained from the fear, excuse me, in the beginning. And so, like I said, I think you need both. But it's just a matter of the balance as to when you need to do it and when to implement it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Joaquin, do you think, you agree or disagree with James, and do you feel like what also here James is saying is there's a certain level of maturity as well that comes in with that, the maturity of the parent, the maturity of the child, at what level? And James, does the fear turn into respect, or is it always fear, and then the maturity, now it's respectful? How does that even work? That makes sense.
Is that for him or me? I think for me, I think initially as a parent, the first thing we do is we do what we know. And sometimes, we're like, I'm never going to parent and discipline my child that way. Or sometimes you're like, I'm going to do exactly what was done with me.
We do what we know, we do the opposite, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think if you have not put thought into it when you first have children, you just do what was done with you. But then after you start to think about it, you make some adjustments. You know what I mean? And I know that's what I personally did. With my son, or let's talk about with my parents. Me and my brother, we got the belt. We got the belt.
Yes,
we
sir.
got the switch. We got, God forbid you walk past my mama with your shirt off. You was getting smacked right in the back.
You didn't have to have your shirt off.
Yeah.
Can you explain? Because I'm not being funny, but not everyone. If you're not from the South, you might not know what a switch is.
Oh,
Can you explain what a switch
that's
is?
funny.
We have to put a picture up.
Yeah, when they take a branch off the tree, take the leaves off, and then you get that.
And
But
who go
it's,
get it?
it's,
And
it's
who
one
go get
of
it?
those branches.
Oh yeah, you
though,
got to go get it yourself.
You got to get it, but it's one of those branches. It's not a tall branch you can just break and it's gonna break in half.
No, it's
like a vine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wild.
It's growing. It's strong.
wild.
bro.
It's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
wild
Wrap
tree.
around your leg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, all
Make
that.
sure it cut in the air.
Yeah.
We got that. Me and my brother, we got that.
It'll cut you.
From mom switch, dad belt, grandma switch belt, whatever.
Yardstick.
Yardstick,
Drop board.
yardstick.
No.
Do they know what a yardstick
Shoe,
is?
yardstick, 36 inches.
Yeah.
Hey,
So-
did you ever get additional beating because you got a bullshit switch? You got the
Oh yeah,
wax
you
switch?
go get yeah.
Yeah, you gotta
See
get-
what they trick you is it don't make me go get the switch.
Yeah.
And then you come back with a tree to kill yourself. You don't want them to go get one. I know exactly
Yeah,
what
'cause
you're
that
talking
big tree
about.
hurt.
Man,
rather than a
I
little
got an aunt that was famous for that, man.
Yeah, man.
She's-
So like it's we talk about it with laughter and but then you like start to think, man, what kind of trauma was that? You know what I mean?
Wow.
What kind of trauma did that bring upon us? You know what I mean?
Bro.
And having a big grandma, it didn't do no good. You know what I mean? She'd go there one day.
Bro, the rules was just,
rules
like my
was too
oldest brother,
arbitrary.
my older brother has a scar the size of 2 quarters on his upper thigh because he cursed at my mom when he was 12
Whoa.
and he got beat by the belt buckle. Not the belt, by the buckle.
Buckle.
The buckle. I think the buckle dug in his legs there. But my point is though, if you did something, my problem was this. I could have did something last week, but I didn't do nothing today. But my brother getting a beating today. But then I get my beating for last week. You understand what I'm saying?
I'm in beating
Hey,
mode.
Bro,
Boot-
when
yeah,
you
yeah,
there,
I'm
when
in
you
beating
there, when they
mode.
being handed out, everybody getting one.
Oh.
I mean, it was because you did something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They be, I'm gonna beat you for old and new.
Yeah, what you gonna do next
Yeah.
week? You gonna get
And
one
what
now.
you thinking about?
Yeah.
What you
Or
thinking about
this,
doing?
you know how it ain't no different than what they talked about. We can get into that. Now, I'm gonna get to this. That whole buck breaking thing, right? When you beat the hell out of a slave, so the rest of them looking. I might give you 2 licks too,
Yeah.
just to keep you in line. But I say that beating word, and I said that when James said it because I was listening to a tape from this pastor that my brother had visited his church. and he was talking about how beating in our community is related to slavery,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and that in our African history that wasn't a part of it. Now I haven't researched the African historical perspective enough, but I do know the slavery connection.
Absolutely.
And it is a fact that we adopted many behaviors based on how our slave master managed our behavior on the plantation.
Absolutely.
And the
Without
whip
a
was
doubt.
one of them.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? And so his whole thing was, we've always been aggressive as young black men. And he quoted some scriptures from the Bible that talked about a generation that had high energy and all of this stuff. But he was like, that wasn't how it was managed. But
Right.
we adopted this slave master thing when now we beating our children to keep them in line,
Absolutely.
as opposed to developing the critical thinking and the reasoning skills. You know what I'm saying? So
you know, here's the one thing I can say. Me and my brother done enough. I ain't never get one of them beatings I ain't deserve. And in
That's a
terms
fact.
of, I ain't get one for something I didn't do.
yeah,
You know what
got
I mean?
you,
So when
got
I
you.
say I ain't deserve, I mean, like, obviously now as an adult, I reflect back on it and I understand reasoning and logic and talking to your kids and all that stuff, and that there's a different way and what I believe to be a better way of handling it. I'm not opposed to. I think what happens is when you get the tap on the hand, what I would refer to as a spanking, and then when you get a beating, it's because your adult or whoever's handing out that discipline has lost it emotionally. You know what I mean? Sometimes, and now you're getting it because you know their emotions are high.
But
You
let's
know what I
call
mean?
it what it is. It's a fight.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
one-
I'm
a
being
one-sided
sincere.
one.
If I get mad and discipline you because I'm mad and I'm effing you up, I'm fighting you.
Yeah. Right.
Pretty much, I'm just getting off on you.
And you can't hit back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
let's
A
just call it
one-sided
what it
fight.
is.
A
And
one-sided
so-
fight.
Wow.
And so what we getting into now, we talking about in fear versus respect. We telling parents why the fear isn't relevant, I think, at a certain age to me, because James pointed out when he talked about the reference to starting off very primitive and, you know, you herding animals. And, like, when I'm not trying to compare children to animals, right? But we are, as a species, we have a biology, right?
Yeah.
So, but what I'm saying is they use a little stick to prod them and all of that stuff. So to me, when the reason kicks in, then you don't, because you don't understand my reason if I don't have the spanking and stuff until a certain age.
Right.
But it might be at 6 where your reasoning kick in.
Absolutely.
And I can start reasoning with you, because at the same time, if I'm teaching you fear no one but God,
Come on.
then if I teach you to fear me, I'm teaching you to fear God beside God. Let's talk about it.
Absolutely.
Right? So I don't need you to fear me, right?
Right. Absolutely.
I need you to respect and have some understanding that disappointing me should make you feel bad, but you shouldn't fear me, because I'm
Absolutely.
not someone you should fear at a certain point. You should respect at all times. But when they can't protect themselves at 6 and 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, you gotta tap them because they don't know. You gotta yank them sometimes, right? But beyond that, it just get to a situation where you're creating disrespect. Like, in the terms of, if you fight me and hit me at 14 and you mad and you getting off and I can't hit back, what am I learning? I haven't learned the whatever the reason is. It's like, don't do it through fear to the point where it don't hurt anymore. Then what? Like you saying. So, and we got to talk about this, because in our community, and I'm going to shut up, we got a problem, man, with what we're telling our young men is this toxic masculinity we talking about was,
Absolutely.
you ain't being raised right if you ain't been, your uncle ain't took you in the back with boxing gloves
Yeah, right,
and
right.
beat your ass and all. I mean, come on, bro.
Absolutely.
We not building thinkers, and then these kids get out in the street and they all emotional and can't think, and they end up in jail
Absolutely.
because they tough.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Acting
Ego.
on emotion.
Wow.
Ego
This-
and emotions operating. But the key point is, as a parent, how much are you educating yourself on discipline? I always like to say it takes discipline to discipline. You know what I mean? And I'm not hitting you out of frustration or anger, and that I have a process through which I dish out discipline. You know what I mean? And how do we as parents convert the fear to to respect.
Right.
How do we convert that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so it's very important that we as parents learn how to use our language and how to speak to kids and how to talk to them and use that reasoning that you talk about, you know what I mean? And just explaining. I tell a lot of people that one of the best things you can do as your kids start to get older and if you've been able to convert that fear to respect, is that if you can get your kids to not want to disappoint you as a parent.
Oh,
If
that's
you
awesome.
can reach that point with your young people, that will change everything, because now all of a sudden they self-correct when they're out of your presence, because they don't want to ever disappoint mom, disappoint dad, disappoint grandma, or whoever it is.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
You know what I mean? I don't want to disappoint my mother. You know what I mean? My grandmother, my grandfather, whoever it is. You know what I mean? If you can get to that point, you have reached a major milestone. Go ahead. You was going to add to that.
I only laugh because that reminds me of the time that I realized that it hurt me more to disappoint my mother. And it was in school.
At
Then
what
a lick.
age?
Yes. It was in school, and I think, I got in trouble. She got a call or a note from my teacher or whatever about not doing my homework or not, listening in class or whatever the case. And she was like, I don't know what to do, Jamie. I work hard. I work and I just don't, and I just, all the disappointment, I'm like, Mom. So I said, can't you just beat me and get 1,000 lashes or something? Just don't be disappointed.
Right.
Man, and so that is so true, because from that point on, I was like, I do not want to disappoint my mother because of all the hurt and that she felt, and how disappointed she was in all of what she was trying to do for me, and her expectation of me to be better and do better in school. The simple, the simple responsibility as a elementary student, do your homework. You know what I mean? It's not too much. Is that so much to ask for? You know what I mean? So man, that is so true.
That's real, man.
When it
And
came
that's
to
so
that
important, too,
disappointment, bro.
because at one point, my mother worked in that building right over there, the Omni Hotel. She would go to the hospital from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then she would get off at 3 p.m. and she would go to the Omni Hotel from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Wow.
All right. When she got time to be checking in on us and what we doing,
Right.
it's impossible. You know what I mean? She trying to make it work, Our father passed away when she was 11. Now, when I was 11. So obviously we had grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins chipping in, but mom was working like nonstop for several years. And even like when I was in high school, she was working like that. When she got time to check on us. So if she is not instilled in us that place where we like, hey, I just don't want to disappoint mom, then we're going to constantly have these issues, because she don't have time to check on us.
Yeah,
You know what
I
I
mean,
mean?
because she had 2 jobs all the way until I was in college. But I remember, just like Wal said a few minutes ago, when my dad passed away, right? I was 9 years old, and I'm thinking, I'm having these thoughts to myself, and I was like, man, next time I get in trouble, my mom try to beat me, it's not gonna go well, And I'm literally having this conversation at 9.
He ain't here no more.
And and I did. Of course I did something, and she went to beat me, and I stood there and I was like, I ain't gonna cry, it don't hurt. And she was just pounding. I said, I don't care, I'm not crying, it's not gonna hurt. I was like, this is the last time I'm getting a beat. Oh my goodness, what? Boom, boom. I'm not gonna cry, it don't hurt. And that was the last time I physically got beaten, because I was like, it was like, I don't know if I had so much like rage or whatever in me or whatever, but whatever she did, she was doing some numbers to me. I know she gonna be mad with me, but I just remember at 9 years old, I was like, I'm not gonna cry, and this is the last time you gonna do this to me.
Yeah,
I had a
And
bro-
so then
you
the
lost fear at
respect-
that point. You
Correct.
ain't had a fear.
Correct.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And that was like the transformation, you know, kind of pretty much took place because I was like, I'm not going to fear the pain, nothing.
But a part of that respect grow out of how hard we saw her work.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? He like, God damn, she humping it. You know what I mean?
Right.
For us like this. You know what I mean?
And then-
And so you just, you know, you start to develop that. And it comes gradually. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It comes gradually. You know, it don't happen all at once. But, you know, you see how hard she work. You're like, God damn, you know, she doing all this for us, trying to make us good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let me see how I can help. You know what I mean? And then you just develop this thing where the best way I can help my mom is to not be one of her problems.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He got that faster than me.
Yeah, like that's how I was like. The best way I can help her is to not be one of her problems.
my
She got
goodness.
enough problems.
Praying
Let
grandma.
me not be one of them. You know what I mean? But
Praying
yeah, I got
mama.
there a little sooner than you.
Yeah, praying for. Go ahead,
Hey,
JG.
Nah, it's all good. So listening to Nuevo and James, it just also reminds me of, again, growing up in a single parent household, right? And one of the hardest things to do, I'm married, divorced, you know what I mean? So been that 2-couple home, been the single family home. And I know how hard your mama worked. I know how hard all our mamas work, right? And so the challenge is when you're trying to discipline, you fighting the world all day. You know what I mean? You go out and work for these folks, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And struggling, then you got to come home with these kids. And sometimes I ain't got time for it, so I let this slide, right? And then next week, you know what? Your mama got a 2-for-1. I'm tired.
That's
You
what
slipped,
it
yeah,
was.
you slipped last
That's exactly
week.
what it
Your
was.
brother gonna get it now. You gonna get
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And so,
That's it.
2-for-1.
While I got time.
exactly. And
gotta
why I'm
have-
in
yeah.
that mode, because you know you gotta, and it goes into discipline. One of my strongest prayers, even to this day, is calm, assertive energy. You know what I mean? I had mentioned before, man. Sometimes I lose the message and how I delivered it, right? And so sometimes the message was gone. And then when James talked about the moment, and we love mama to death, right? But we know how she can go in, just like all our mamas can, right?
Right.
But the moment she was calm and said, hey, James, I just don't know what to do. That impacted you, right? Because you were so used to hearing the yelling and screaming, I'm tired. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so when you're in a single parent home, you barely making ends meet, you're struggling, fighting the world, and now you got to discipline a child and put their needs, right? And no one's put your needs as a mother. You know what I mean? No one put your needs at first, right?
Right.
And so now, fast forward, when I'm married, if I'm coming home and I'm pissed off, I'm in the mode, you know what I mean? I'm jumping on the kids. Hey, they mother, my wife can be like, hey, John, calm down. You know what I mean? I got this.
Yeah,
You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
She can balance me out.
Right.
And when
Right,
she
yeah.
on one of her modes and going in, I'm like, hey, go on, chill out. I got this today.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
But when you have nobody there to balance you, you know, that's when we can make those mistakes and go hard and beat or discipline someone in anger. You know what I mean? Rather than love. You know?
That's powerful, man. That's exactly right. And I'm a go back to what Talik said, and you know, and that's a traumatic moment for you. But I'm gonna just tell you what I heard when I heard you say it. You said when my father passed, and I got that. I resolved after that I'm not getting any more beatings, right? And then when you finish that whole explanation of that powerful story, you said, I don't know what it was. You do know what it was.
Yeah.
There was no pain
Right. Yeah.
that could come to you that was deeper than the pain you felt with that loss.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? And so what I say about that is, and it's powerful also, that shout out to your mom, the queen, for recognizing there was no need to revisit that after that time.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? Because I'm sure she processed
Yeah.
that. Something just happened.
Mhm.
Excuse me, I'm tapping the table.
No.
Something just happened.
Yeah.
And so, but my point is, our children have their own psychological journey, man. So you can't even treat all of them the same.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So if you in your journey and I recognize you understand reason, it don't. My son told me, like one of his football coaches said, it ain't even no me yelling at you. It's not gonna
Right.
do nothing.
Right.
All I gotta do,
Right.
Card, is just tell you why I think you was wrong and why you was off.
Yeah.
That
Right.
ain't what you need. He don't need that.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah, that's heavy.
we
Yeah.
impact their own emotional growth when we use pain versus reason when they ready to receive reason, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And then we expect the world, you know, we expect the world, because the world not going to inflict pain on them. The world going to reason with them. They going to try.
Yeah. That's
And
true.
if the only thing the two they understand is pain, then reason going to land them in jail. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying that at being in the school system, I try to reason with you, but, you know, like, the only thing you understand is getting cussed out, getting hollered at.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Right.
So if that's the only thing that motivates you and I can't do that, then I got to put consequences on you. And what that looks like in school is suspension. What it looks like out of school is jail.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we got to
Absolutely.
understand that my discipline is not for right now.
Absolutely.
It's for 10 years down the road. And I will argue, if you correct them at 2 and 3 and don't get tired because you tired, every time they do something, you
Yes.
there, nope, and you redirecting, and you not being, I'm going to just say, you not being a lazy parent,
That's right.
then they learn all those behaviors. By the time they 9 or 10, you ain't got to argue with them no more. They get it.
Yeah.
But if you wait and you let stuff go, and
Thought
then
it was
you wanna
cute when he was 5.
You want to
Right.
start disciplining at 9 and 10, you done already lost.
Right.
You're done.
True.
Yes.
So if you can't do it between 0 and 7, game over. I really believe that. You know.
I like how my grandfather, you know, I had to do a combination of my level of discipline, but my grandfather, man, he look at you and you move. You know what I mean? He only gonna say it once. He look at you and you better move, right? And I said to myself, I said, man, God, how do you develop that, right? I mean, grandfather wasn't in my life when my son was born, you know, right? So I was like, man, how do I get that? Like, I don't have nobody to go and ask how to get that, you know? And by the grace of God, I was able to develop that, you know? When my son do something, my wife was like, "You gonna get him right?" And I'm like,
You gonna get him.
I don't want to really get him like that. You know?
I love you, but I don't need no hype person right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, you.
And I'm like,
I'm
you
trying to
get
be
too
calm.
hyped,
Yeah.
he gonna be injured.
I'm like, right.
I'm trying to
Somebody
be
gotta
calm.
be like, you know, somebody gotta go get somebody. You know, both
Yeah.
of us can't be hyped, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, baby, let me handle it. Okay. And then, you know, what did you say to him? What did you do? I'm like, babe, just like, let me go in here. I'm talking to him or whatever. And I'm having this conversation with him. And I'm letting him know. And I'm giving him examples of what's going on and why he shouldn't do this or et cetera and stuff like that. And then, so usually now when even to this day, he 22 years old, right? Of course, he getting none of that, but he'll come to me first, right? And sometimes, like how John was saying earlier, you know, we do a lot of laughing in the household, right? But at the same time, I said, look, Tariq, your mom ain't for that stuff today. Go somewhere and sit down. You know what I mean? I'm warning him before she get home.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because you see those signs, those cues, those nonverbals.
And plus, we didn't
Before-
talk, right?
Yeah.
She mad at such and such, right?
Yeah.
He in joking mode. She not trying to hear that.
Yeah.
She ain't.
Yeah.
Feeling it right now.
And I'm like, son, later on, I'll let you know when she ready. You know, and I'm warming him up. So, you know, I'm prepping him. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, you know, that balance is not there. He need to know. But yeah, definitely. That's how we, you know, and so I was able to develop that discipline where I look at him and I buck my eyes or whatever, or I look at him real serious and stern, and then he straighten right up and do what he need to do. I don't have to, you know, whoop him or nothing.
Let me ask you this: How are we helping? Because even me, I will admit, after everything I said, I have jacked my children up at 13 and 14. I'm just being honest.
Right.
I got mad and
Right.
Yeah.
and put somebody's neck up to highs to the ceiling as I could do.
Right.
Because I didn't want to beat, and I just grabbed the, around
Yeah.
here,
Right.
and the next thing I know, he was up in the air.
Right.
And the neck
That wasn't
happened-
planned.
The neck happened to be the only thing I could grab up in the air, but
Right.
and I lost it. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It was an eighth grade situation, and that
Okay.
was probably the. I think with each of my boys, it was probably one incident in the teen years. Nothing more than like, let me just restrain. I've restrained them before. Like, let me
Yeah.
just show you I can just physically exert myself if I choose to.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the how are we helping parents? Because we have good children, thank God.
That's right.
How are we helping the children that haven't been responsive to the reasoning? What can we offer those parents in terms of advice? What do? If you a single parent and you coming home and you frustrated and you mad and you got a child that's not listening to reason, and he's a boy
Absolutely.
and he needs some man stuff,
Okay.
what do you do?
Man, I think that question right there is
That's heavy.
exactly why they say it takes a village. It really does take a village. You know what I mean? One of the things that we've been able and blessed to do is if our son's going through something, we can be like, yo, shoot my boy a text.
Yeah,
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
yeah, right,
Yo,
right.
Shoot my man a text. And
Yeah.
we've been blessed to be able to have that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's why it's very important to have them, I believe, in athletics, other activities. You know what I mean? You need to find out who, aside from you, what adult has your child's ear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when something is going on with them, you know what I mean? You can give them a message, but hey, reach out to his coach and say, hey, this is what's going on with him. I need you to speak to him about that.
Yeah, reinforce,
Reach
yeah.
out to whoever, whatever mentor, the uncle, the cousin, or anybody, whoever they hang with, and say, hey, I need you to speak to him about this as well. You know what I mean? And so really, that's when we fall on our village right there. You know what I mean? Because they've heard us so much. You know what I mean? They've heard what's coming from us so much. You know what I mean? That at some point, you got to think it gets stale
They
or
can
get
finish
old.
the speech for you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
they need some
But when
fresh.
they can, I think it's super powerful when they can hear from someone else and they said exactly what you or I said. You know what I mean?
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
now that it gets reinforced, and
Yeah.
everybody be like, yeah, I know. My dad said the same thing.
It's-
You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
But I think that's when we lean on our village, and as parents, we need to think about who's in my corner when it comes to my children.
Right.
Who's in my corner? You know what I mean? Who has that love for my kids? You know what I mean? And I can reach out to them, and they will reach out to my kids and speak to them on some of that. You know what I mean? So that's what I would say. Lean on your village in times like that. If you don't feel like you have their ear like you want to.
How do you
And-
navigate that, John? I know, John, you got a co-parenting situation. So how do you navigate that when your child is going to another household?
Excellent. It's a challenge, because at the end of the day, I always say if we was on the same page, we all still be under one roof. You know what I mean? And I still recognize that she has certain strength, and I have certain strength. You know what I mean? And that's what I mentioned earlier when you talked about, or when I was talking about the fighting the world and then having the calm and composure to discipline your child, right? Outside of emotions, right? If you're feeling good, you can't let them get away with everything, right? And if you're angry, you can't beat their ass for every
Take
little
discipline to discipline.
thing. Right. You have to be
Right.
consistent. And going back to also what you said about, jacking your son up, right? And I had one of the moments too, right? And it's so funny because you that wasn't a calm, assertive energy moment. You know what I mean? That was a moment where he was a certain age and a certain size, and I had warned him and warned him and warned him. You know what I mean? Dealing with his own brother.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell him, I say, I kill a rock for all of y'all. I ain't gonna let nobody mess with none of y'all boys, including one another.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Including me. I'm not gonna let you do that to your brother, right?
Yeah, sibling bickering.
And so in this situation, right, I warned him, and it was just like an instinct, right? Verbal. Boom. He was on the floor. Didn't even think about it, you know what I mean? He wasn't hurt. Eyes got big. He was scared, right? In front of his little brother, So a few days later, his mom called me and said, I heard what happened at the house. I said, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes,
Don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So sometimes it took me a minute. You know, we have some wonderful spaces. You know what I mean? For the most of the time, right? Not all the time, but that's life. So I was like, damn, did I do the right thing? So a week or two later, we watching TV. We watching some show, and some kid was smacking back at their parents, being rude as on or what. And my son said, he looked at his brother. He said, hey, if we had did like that, talk to dad like that, we'd be on the floor by now.
So,
Yes,
and
sir.
so fear, so
We've converted.
respect came through fear.
Right.
Right.
Yes,
That's what,
sir.
yes, that's what I was talking about earlier.
And so
Yeah.
that is a scenario where that can't be pre-planned. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah.
if I got to slam them 5 or 6 times, it ain't working.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so then I talked to his mom. I said, yeah, that's what happened. And we laughed about it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And she understands, you know, my strength and my weakness as a parent. And you know what I mean? Likewise. And so it is a challenge, bro. It is a challenge because, again, we try to have the same standards. You know what I mean? We literally have 50-50 custody, right? And so once I became a little more mature myself as a parent, my rule for spanking the discipline was like lying, cheating, and stealing, right? I ain't gonna spank you for spilling the Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? I might still discipline you, you know, because maybe you shouldn't have been eating in this area on this carpet, right? But I'm not gonna beat you. So my most important thing is your character, you know, and you're gonna get your ass whipped. I'm not having no lying, stealing, cheating ass person in my household.
Right.
I'm not
Right,
raising that
right,
type of dude.
right.
So you're gonna get a spanking for that, for sure. Those other little things, we was able to be like, daggone boy, you know, and then you gotta, you know. So but in saying that, bro, it's a challenge, man. It's a challenge. I think, though, for the most part, we got great, I know we got kids with great character, great value system, great moral system, beyond their parents' screw-ups. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I'm like grateful, man, grateful because of that, you know. She has a good family. I feel like I got a great family. And, you know, and going back to what y'all was saying, too, you touched base on the village. Was there anybody else that could spank you or discipline you outside of mama or daddy? You know what I mean? Your grandfather, you mentioned June. And that's what we call him, June Bean, right?
Right.
But that's all respect. Did he can look at you a certain way. Did he ever put them paws on you?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That's why
Oh.
the look work.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at some
Yeah.
point he didn't have to do that, right? He just had
Absolutely
to,
right.
he did.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anybody else in the neighborhood or the community could spank any of y'all?
I would like to think so. Well, one thing for sure, the community had a level of fear. You know, now why can't Tilly? I know that ain't y'all down there cussing.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know, I ain't hear that, did I? No, ma'am. You
Right,
know.
yeah, that was a way
And
for
then
them
we-
telling you, to warning
yeah.
you that your mama gonna
Right.
whoever's
Don't make
gonna
me
hear
come
about
down
that.
there and straighten y'all out. I'll whoop all y'all down there because they know every last child that was down there. You know,
Yeah.
and so nowadays, I would like to say, or you know, pretty much there's no village, right?
Facts.
Cause don't you say nothing to my baby.
Facts. Right. Or
Okay.
even if he's wrong.
Yeah, don't say nothing to
Even
my
if he
baby.
wrong.
Yeah, even if he dead wrong.
Yeah.
You tell me I discipline, and
Yeah.
then you gonna have an attitude
Yeah.
because somebody that came and told you that he doing something. So
It's
soon
people
as they-
married to people
Bro.
Right.
that don't allow the husband to say
Bro,
nothing
as
to the
soon as
kids.
they say
Wow.
that, I say he going to jail.
right, and just like
And
my
I'm not
brother
wishing
said,
it on him. I'm just
Right.
You when you got a step parent in the house, right, and you not letting them. I mean, it get real sketchy right here. But let's we just scratching the surface. You know what I'm saying? You disarm
The step parent
when the step
or the
parent
co-parent. whatever.
or the co-parent when you don't allow them to add their input.
But they gotta have the
But-
integrity to be able to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They gotta have
you
the
can't
integrity
have
to
no
do it.
Right.
irrational fool as a step parent.
Correct. Correct. Because I
Yeah.
mean, we didn't see step parents
Yeah.
kill people, kids,
Yeah.
etc. So
Or
we
just on some dumb stuff.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Jealous.
I think earlier when Wah was saying, you know, as because we all parents and we tell our kids, it comes upon deaf ears. You know, we said it so much, they not even really listening. Subconsciously they might, but they really not even listening. And then when they run into someone in the neighborhood or whatever, or coach, etc., and they say it, and they come home and they all excited like it's some brand new news, and you like, that's what I just been telling. No, you didn't say it like
Right,
that.
right,
You didn't,
right.
you didn't. And you just like, all right, as long as you got the message. I'm not gonna sit here and keep arguing. As long as you got the message, I'm so excited you got the message.
You know, here's a little nugget, and it kind of goes back to the village. I coach AAU basketball, Pop Warner football for years, and oftentimes when you coach AAU basketball, you traveling with kids and all that stuff. You going out of town, you at malls, hotels, you know what I mean? All kinds, swimming, all kinds of stuff. And from time to time, I would have a parent come to me as we about to leave, we about to get on the bus, go wherever we going. Had a parent come to me and say, hey, if my kid get out of line, you get him straight.
Oh.
All right?
Right.
You get him straight if he get out of line. And you know what my answer was every single time to the parent that would say that to me?
What?
Any parent that says that to me, I already know their kid ain't going to get out of line.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Wow. Because you getting them straight.
Yeah. 'Cause
Getting them
you
straight
got him
is important to you.
You got him
Before I
straight
got-
before you handed him to me.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So when they say that, that's what I would always say.
Yeah.
If you would say that to me, I already know I'm not going to have to say nothing to him.
yeah.
He going to be just fine.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
But that's a good example of a parent doing it there and then extending it to the village. Now I'm a part of that village, and they saying, hey, I need you to reinforce what I'm doing at home.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I
I
mean?
don't think he can do what
Yeah.
do something
Hey,
different.
but that's a
Exactly.
compliment too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
Yeah, that they trust,
that's a
yeah.
But they
compliment.
trust you with that.
Correct.
Because why? You demonstrate the integrity and the character, and they trust your judgment when it comes to their young person.
Yeah.
You know what
I'm
I mean?
gonna pop in right here to remind everyone that we broadcasting from the Code Building in downtown Charlottesville, Virginia, the B2M podcast. You can follow us on Twitter and IG at B2M Crew. At B2M. And also we got merch online on the website. You know, being produced by Win Productions. You know, take this journey with us. We're in here chopping it up about fear versus discipline, and we've talked a lot about the fact that we believe, everybody generally agree that there's a point where reason comes in, where it's important to use reason when you can. And one of the things I was thinking about in my own admission, that I didn't use reason at a few points in some adolescent years, and John was talking about the same thing. Again, I'm also back to, again, you parenting individuals. It's no different than if you got a child that can run the ball like Michael Vick and one that's not that good in athletics. You're guiding them and developing them differently based on their ability. So if when sometimes you could have a child that's 15 not responding to reason as a grown man, they might be out here bullying, beating everybody up. Somebody need to check them.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And what you hoping is it's gonna be somebody out there that beat their ass,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But if it doesn't happen, and then they get to the point where you get tried, potentially, or the single mom gets tried by the 15-year-old teen. My point is, fear versus discipline. Fear versus respect. If you can't be respectful, you can't stay here. Let's talk about. Because, and listen, that's not me saying I'm getting rid of the problem. That's me investing in your future.
That's
How about
right.
that? Because if I let you stay here and co-sign this, then I'm advancing you into whatever chaos you will end up here having.
Yeah,
in
maybe
your
you
life.
think it's okay to go out into the
Yeah.
world in that
So,
same
but that's
way.
a tough
Right.
situation.
Hey, man,
man. How do we deal with these rebellious teens?
One of the things that happens, especially with single mothers, and obviously they do all they can and they do the best they can.
Yes.
But I've had the conversation with several mothers of kids that I have coached, and I had to tell them, "Hey, don't make him your husband. Don't make him.
That's
your
what I
husband.
want to talk about. Yeah, get
You know
get
what
on
I
it.
mean?
Let's get
Like a
into
lot of these mothers are making their 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old sons their husbands,
Yeah.
their boyfriends.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? They confiding in them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They need them. They jealous of any other girl he talked to. You know what I
Right,
mean? When I
right.
see that, I'm like, yo, you making him your boyfriend.
Yeah.
He your son.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And not in a sexual counter.
No,
Girl,
but
I
in
guess,
a
girl,
sexual
he
no
wanted,
way.
he wanted
Right.
this today for dinner.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
because what they seek in a relationship they don't
pathology.
currently have, and so they're gonna find it, and it's unintentional and accidental that they all of a sudden start to get that from their son.
So tell what the impact of that is.
Oh my gosh! Now you know
You gotta
how you think he gonna treat women. You know what I mean? How you think he gonna treat women, or he gonna be a big baby? He don't know how to be a man to another woman.
Right.
And guess what? When the school call you to tell you he done disrespected some girl, no, he didn't.
Yeah,
He don't treat me like we don't do that in this house.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
now can't nobody else be a village.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Right?
Yeah, you've
And
excluded
then,
the village.
And I keep saying jail because I'm big on this playground to prison pipeline and behavior to prison pipeline. Then when he gets checked, you sitting on the news talking about he's not really like that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So they got an emotional relationship.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so,
Yeah.
as a parent, as a single mother, you got to be extremely mindful of the type of relationship and the type of dialogue you exchange and what you divulge to your sons and stuff like that. Don't be telling them your business like that. You know what I mean? It's you got to make sure you don't blur the lines
And hold them
between having a
accountable.
good relationship and then, like you said, hold them accountable.
Even when it hurts you too.
Absolutely.
'Cause it's gonna hurt you.
Absolutely. Because once again, let's go back. It takes discipline to discipline.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
And so holding them accountable and all that stuff, even when it's hurting you,
Yeah.
that is an absolute real
Yeah.
thing. You know what I mean? So
So you got to teach them some tough love.
that might be what it requires.
Yeah.
You
know,
have
from-
to,
from-
because
from
it's
time
so
to
many.
time.
I mean, I would say in the school system, man, you know why so many teachers are leaving the school system? Everybody keeps saying they want to be paid more, and they do,
Yeah,
and they should be.
absolutely.
But people have been teaching for years for a little bit of money,
Right.
right?
Sure.
They love to teach, but now I can't call you to tell you your child did anything,
Yeah.
because you putting it back on me,
Yeah.
right? I can't tell you he's been a total ass in the classroom.
Right.
Nobody can read, learn nothing because of your child, and you're coming there to defend them, and your child sitting there listening to you play Johnny Cochran
Yeah.
over the fact he literally was seen on camera hitting somebody.
So if
And
you can't get
blaming
in trouble,
somebody else.
so if you can't get in trouble at home, you can't get in trouble at school, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, let me tell you something.
know?
With the one rule my mama had when we was young, she used to always say, "Don't let them white folks call me on my job.
That's a fact.
Don't let
We
them
all
white
got
folks
that
call me on my
conversation.
job." Like
Right.
that.
And she meant business.
that-
See,
that
and,
was-
and this was
it
back
was
when
not gonna
people
be
didn't
good.
have phones at their desk.
Right.
You know, you got a
They
phone
come
now.
get-
Now,
they
they
come
had,
get
hey,
us.
somebody go
Hey, look.
get Lottie, you know,
I already got to work.
my supervisor got, because they on the assembly line.
Yeah,
They
right.
might be- I know
It
my
might
mom,
be
they
4
was on the
hours.
assembly line.
Yeah.
You can't leave that spot.
That's
Right.
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 Tell me you got a phone call.
Yeah. And he cutting
Yeah.
up, acting stupid. Oh man.
And you already working 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Trying to make ends meet.
Yeah. So
And
Yeah. And that's the point y'all talk about. The respect piece is not wanting to disappoint your mom. You feel like, I know with my brothers, you know, just like y'all, you feel like you're an enemy to the family when you hurt her. When they work
Yeah.
that hard,
Yeah.
yeah.
and you know it, but how? So when people say, how do you build that type of respect? I don't even know if it's a tangible process for other than through your example of sacrifice for your kids and probably telling them the truth. I tell you one thing is reminding them to be thankful and grateful for everything they have,
yeah.
Yeah.
because that's back to talking to them like adults, not adults, but maturely,
Yeah.
and explaining stuff to them, right? Because you should be explaining. Because I think a big problem with discipline with our children right now is the materialism that exists in our community,
Oh.
right? You understand what I'm saying? And some people might say that's a stretch. No, it's not. Because half of their bad behavior is based on false perceptions, based on how I want to be seen.
Right.
And so if you have a child that you teach, like, look, you can have nice things, but this don't define you. Don't be talking about you cool, you not this and that. So they grow up sort of on an even keel and see these things as what they are, which are decorations as opposed to some defining article that tells who they are.
Yeah.
So if they're bonded to material things as opposed to character,
Right.
being
Right.
good, being nice, being honest, they get bonded to the life
Right.
and not the character life, then you discipline means nothing to them. You know,
I
You wanna
think
be cool like Bishop
yeah.
the bishop and
from Juice.
Juice.
okay, yeah.
Be cool.
I think the analogy we talked about is filling up your love tank, right?
Uh-huh.
And I realized when I used the example, me, Jack, and my son, right, and we laughing about it a week or two later, he was completely comfortable, and I realized I had filled up his love tank enough where I could snatch him. You know what I mean? Again, we didn't want that to be a regular thing. We don't even want that to be planned. So
Correct.
now he could accept my discipline better. And I understand that it was, again, hopefully it went from a little fear to respect, and he wasn't afraid of me. See, if you walk in the room and they tucking their tail and running to the corner, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a problem there. But he
Go
was
to
able
hug
to,
him and then
yeah. You laugh. He just-
penny on good times.
exactly. 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 So
Man,
when-
shout out to Janet Jackson, man.
and that's why I think
That's funny.
when you show enough love, that's when the discipline is accepted.
Yeah,
That
the
when your
love
mother, when you see how hard your mother worked and how
Fill
much
up the
time she
love
put in
tank.
y'all,
I love that.
and now she can like, all right, not that she gonna withdraw love, but I'm gonna bust you. You know what I mean? You're gonna be disciplined, and now you can accept it greater. And the example earlier when I used about parenting and the balance is, and I was just talking about when I was married, she could balance me out as far as if I'm being an ass that day and vice versa. Man, just think about the child that both parents is off the meter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ooh, both of them there, but both of them, neither one has any self-control. The other one can't check the other one. You know what I mean? That's a hell of a situation to be in.
That's
You
a
know?
court case.
Yeah,
I-
yeah.
if
That's
I can
a
real
future
quick
court
before,
case.
Before we run
Yeah.
out of time, I gotta apologize to Jamil. From my first marriage, son. Look, son, it was not. I did love you. I did not mean to on borderline abuse you by spanking you the way I did, but it was out of love. I promise you, and it was from being a young Muslim. And when the minister said his mother, she was like, she would beat him at the lie. You know what I mean? So he wouldn't, because she said, if you lie, you'll cheat. If you cheat, you'll steal. If you steal, you'll kill. So from hearing those words from the minister, I took my young parenting and used that. But I just want Jamil to know, son, I did not. I loved you. I promise you I did. And please forgive me if there's any ill. If you remember that in any way, please
he
know
remembers.
that it was out of love.
If
Hey,
I
man.
remember, he
Hey,
remembers.
but no,
It's
you
out of
pointed out a
love, but
question I was
it's
gonna
true.
ask is, which
Yeah.
I was gonna ask all of you, have you ever apologized to your child?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I
Isn't that important though?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
I
maintaining a
was dead
position as a
wrong.
disciplinarian.
Oh,
I
man.
was
Yeah.
dead wrong.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
it. You absolutely got to be
I
able
have
to
to
say
share
that.
this story.
Oh,
when-
real quick,
you
and I
know,
think
when
this
you
is,
get in.
the other thing is, again, with respect to single mothers or whatever, or as just young parents, I believe it's important when you map your life out as far as parenthood comes. I definitely know I was a better parent at 30 than I was at 21, 22. You know what I'm saying? 22 years old, my first man. Definitely much better parent. You know what I mean? And so if you are able to set out and plan your life out, don't consider being a parent until until you're 30 years old, have lived some
Until
life.
you get some sense.
Bro,
Until you
yeah.
get a little sense
Bro,
to
they
be able
say
to do
your
that.
brain isn't even fully developed till 25.
Yeah.
Hey man, that's real. But even
Yeah.
in my own household with my two sons, my oldest son will definitely tell you he got way more spankings, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
than his brother. And I'm like, hey, it ain't had nothing to do with you and him. It had everything to do with me and my personal growth and my development as a parent.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And what I always say to them is, man, y'all might have grown up in the same house, but you didn't grow up at the same time, and as a result of that, you didn't get the same parent.
Yeah.
He got a very different parent than you did.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Sure, theirs just won't trifle.
Nah.
You say that. You
And
say
the
that
famous
eloquently.
word-
My mother
and-
just said.
And the
When
famous
I
words.
pointed that difference out, James, I'm tired. I'm tired. Like she don't want to have, she done exhausted all her whippings and everything
Yeah.
on me.
Yeah, you
Although
got 'em.
actually she didn't really have to whip me much. It was actually my grandma on her side that did so, and again it was with that whole switch thing and all.
Yeah.
all of that, but
They get
did
they
it
get
well.
different parents, and I think that's what some young people need to understand. And that what, sometimes we as parents we can beat ourselves up because we weren't the parent at 30. We weren't that parent at 21 that we were at 30.
Right.
And we can beat ourselves up about that.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I think we have to be mindful of that. That like, hey, as they always say, when I knew better, I did better. You know what I mean? And thank God I'm not the parent at 30 that I was at 21.
Right.
You know what I mean? Thank goodness I got some sense.
We learning.
Yeah.
the
Right.
wrong-
I wanna-
and had some growth.
As we got a few minutes. I know Talik had a story for us that he was going to share, and then we'll go ahead and wrap with some final tips or advice for parents in this topic of in terms of discipline. What's more important? Fear or respect?
Yeah, respect versus fear.
Yeah, I had a situation where I guess my son maybe was in the third grade, maybe. I'm getting the grades mixed up. Anyway, he had this teacher that at the time I didn't know that she just had it out for, I know my son personally. I don't know if other kids at that time was experiencing the same thing, but I mean she was just literally bluntly loud on my son.
Wow.
And at the time I was like, this doesn't sound like the child that my wife and I have been raising. And I mean he come home and both of us, boy, he'll get it from both of us. A couple days later, same thing. Get it from both of us. And he kept saying, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. And I talked to my mom. I was like, Mom, you might have to come down here because I don't have time for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I gave you enough problems. My son ain't about to give us no problems like that. I promise you. And then she explained to me that I had a teacher that did the same thing to me when I was, I don't know, younger. And she was like, I've experienced this before, and maybe this. And when she started coaching me to how to deal with this teacher, I started asking and checking the teacher and navigating the tools she gave me. And then that's when I realized that it was her, the teacher, and not my son.
Wow.
And man, I just loved all over him. I mean, of course,
Did you apologize?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I apologize. So I apologize. I didn't know. And one thing about me as a parent, I'm always one thing of me as a parent, I'm always growing. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I mean, I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything.
Right.
I don't have all the answers, but I can get the answers for you. So that's the type of parent I am.
I think in terms of let's look at what sort of parting advice we can give or examples we can give, and I'm just going to start it off by saying in terms of fear versus respect, my final words would be that there's a point where fear is important for the right reasons, and that it should always turn into a respect, because my sons are grown men now, right? They don't fear me anymore. They 20-some years old. They can have me on the ground real quick. Let's keep it 100.
Right.
It's respect.
Right.
And so now, and I tell them now, I appreciate them because I know even when you disagree with me, you show respect.
Right.
Even when you believe I'm wrong. And so I believe there is a time for fear and there's a time for respect and reasoning. But all in all, we got to be responsive to what our children's needs are. Understand that the end game is for them to be grown black men and women who can manage their emotions
Yes.
and their behavior with their intellect and not respond to triggers that end up causing them to end up in a situation. What do you think, John?
Hey, that was excellent. I was also thinking about what you talked about earlier when you was talking about how different kids have different needs, right? We all sports nuts, and I use a lot of coaching analogies, right? A good coach is going to have a system, right? And so parents, men, women, have a system, right? But a great coach is going to coach to that individual's need and talent and shortcomings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I hear a lot of us saying, how when we was young, we tried, we knew right from wrong, but some of our methods was messed up. You know what I mean? And so,
Sure.
but then at least have a system, have something there. And at the end of the day, love them, be there for them. You know what I mean? Show them that you love. And the more love you input, it's easier than the discipline. And obviously it's a difference between spoiling somebody to death versus loving them and letting them know that you're there for them.
Right.
The other thing is, again, not to get off on a different tangent, because you mentioned toxic masculinity the other day, and you mentioned making your child your boyfriend.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things we hear a lot is, I had to be the mom and the daddy.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
And listen, at the end of the day, we live in a different world today, right? With all due respect, if something happens to my ex-wife, I can never be their mama. Never in a million years.
Mm-mm.
All I can do is be the best father that I can be. And I'm okay with that. And if something happened to me, she can't be their daddy. That doesn't mean that she's not an excellent mother. You know what I mean? So you don't have to be the mother or the father. And hopefully that you grow up or you live in the area, if you don't have a good brother, a good cousin, a good man in your life, an uncle, you know what I mean? Through your church, your job, however, you know what I mean?
Right.
Reach out and make them a part of your son's life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If there's a coach, if there's a teacher, and build that relationship. But just don't beat yourself up to the point, and just know that you can just be the best mother that you can be. Right? And
So don't try to assume any other role.
don't try to, I can't be a mom.
Right.
I can't never be a mom.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can't do that. And that masculine energy is super important, as well as that feminine energy.
Yeah. Chill. What's up?
Nah, man. I mean, y'all said it, man. And yeah, that's it.
Man, it's about raising responsible young people, man. Responsibility, the ability to respond. That's what we're trying to teach our young people. You know what I mean? So many people out here, young people, losing their lives in the streets because they don't have the ability to respond.
Right.
Their ego and their emotions are unchecked, and next thing you know, they doing life in prison. You know what I mean? Or the next thing you know, they lose their life on the street.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's very, very, very important that we teach our young people how to respond, how to think. And we do that with the discipline.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I just think it's just so important that we build a network and create that village, you know what I mean, that we want to draw on, you know what I mean, when trying to raise our young people. Mm-hmm. We really want to try to draw on that and create that environment, you know what I mean, so they can see examples, you know what I mean. Exposure is everything, you know what I mean. And when you expose your young people to, good people, high character, all of that stuff, then they start to develop some of those habits. So that's what it's all about to me, teaching our young people how to respond and giving them the ability to respond.
Mm-hmm. Again, everyone pretty much summed it up. And as I was going to say, with regards to that whole support system and village, if you don't have it, of course, the first place is to look are family first. If you have a family of support, system, uncles, as far as brothers, sisters, to help, or brothers in the case of a single parent mother, using them being the uncles to your children and whatnot, and just having that, like you say, a very strong support system is important to create that village.
And remember that your ability to match the energy of their mistakes and not getting tired. As many mistakes as you make, I got the energy to discipline you appropriately at every turn and not let you slip. And they begin to fall in line with that structure. So it's the B2M podcast. This crew, we live at The Code in Charlottesville, Virginia. Brought another episode to you on Fear vs. Respect. Joaquin, you got something to close us out with?
Yeah, I always like to close it with the quote from Frederick Douglass, and it says, "It is easier to raise strong children than to repair broken men." Thank you.
out.
That's right.
Peace.
And I won't stop until I'm winning. I'ma show 'em how true and independent get it. Whole game changed by the time I'm finished with it. We about to get this business handled in a minute. And I won't stop until I'm winning.